Hi everyone, Hotel News Now news editor Sean McCracken here. So earlier this week, Choice Hotels International went public with a $90 per share offer to buy Wyndham Hotels and Resorts after apparently growing frustrated with Wyndham's decision to walk away from the negotiating table after a months-long process, and which then spurred Wyndham executives to announce Choice's interest in buying their company was both unsolicited and quote-unquote underwhelming. So today, I brought in Truist Securities' Patrick Scholes to talk about the possibility of a deal between those two companies and what it means for the larger hotel industry. So Patrick, throw it to you. What do you make of everything we've seen over the last couple of days?
Well, good morning, Sean. Thank you for having me on. Certainly, things got exciting very quickly in our world.
That's one way to put it.
Here? Well, where to start here? First off, I certainly talked with all the management teams involved here, talked with many different investors of all different stripes, whether they own the stock, own both stocks, are interested in perhaps selling the stock, might be a debt holder. Also talked with franchisees, industry folks in general. And, I would say, it's not that bad of an offer. It's hardly a slam dunk. But, I feel that Wyndham shareholders are generally inclined to go with it, but would probably like a few more dollars, perhaps $95 a share. And then importantly, they would like a little bit of downside protection. Not only the shareholders, but the Wyndham management team especially, because there are definitely concerns with antitrust regulation. A combination of these two companies would take a majority of the branded mid-scale hotels here and close to half of the branded economy hotels. And that certainly is going to be heavily reviewed by the antitrust organizations or Department of Justice here. And, a bad scenario for Wyndham would be if it doesn't go through, during that time, you can certainly bet that all of the other competing franchise companies will be gunning for Wyndham franchisees to join their systems because Wyndham Hotels, as we know it, may not be around in a couple more months. And if you're a franchisee signing up for a 15-year contract, you want some sort of certainty who you're dealing with. So,
for sure.
There's certainly been chatter out there about sort of a breakage fee or breakup fee if the deal doesn't go through, payable to Wyndham, but that's still negotiable here. So.
I mean, when you look at a potential deal on this, do you think of that antitrust risk as significantly higher than what we would have seen in Marriott Starwood or? The hotel industry seems to be used to not having heavy scrutiny in that way because it's so fragmented, but this is so targeted in one segment of the industry. It seems like maybe that's more significant.
Well, I think there's two things. Number one, what you certainly said about or alluded to a higher percentage of that segment of the industry being involved with these two companies. But you also have a political administration that is probably going to be more scrutinizing it, just sort of the directions that the political winds have taken under the Biden administration as it relates to antitrust here. So you sort of have those two things going on that, make it a higher risk that something might be rejected here versus, say,
and to that point,
the Marriott.
To that point, one of the two major industry lobbying groups has come out against a deal, so it seems like there would be more political pressure from that angle as well. With AHOA came out and put out a statement and said they're not for it.
That certainly would not help. I haven't heard anything specific on the AHLA. They, I don't know specifically what they're going to say about this, but historically they've been more brand or franchisor.
They're probably more likely to stay out of this fight, I would guess.
Yeah, I can't say what they will do or won't do, but again, we've seen AHOA more franchisee friendly and AHLA more franchisor friendly.
Absolutely. So to walk away from the conversation of the hurdles just for a moment, in a hypothetical scenario that these two companies did consummate a deal, what do you make of a combined Choice Wyndham? How high are you on the potential of that hypothetical company?
Certainly pluses and minuses. As far as positives, in today's day and age, and certainly as we've seen with Marriott and Starwood, bigger is better has been the theme, and that relates to the guest reward system. It also relates to power of negotiations with the online travel agencies, also synergies with marketing programs, and also for the brands or some of the individual brands. If you're a brand owner, you might be more likely to stay within that greater franchise system because you have more options if you want to put in a new hotel, or if you want to, switch brands as well. So possibly less, what we call that, less leakage or attrition in there. Possibly on the downside here, and certainly it looks like if this were to go through, Choice would certainly be taking on a lot more debt. More financial risk. And, one thing in today's day and age that, the brands have been doing extremely well, or I would say especially competitors, such as Hilton with their Spark brand, is the creative introduction of new brands. And, when you're taking on a lot of debt, your priority is probably to pay down the debt and not, work on growth initiatives. So that might be a negative there. So there's definitely pluses and minuses. And again, a lot of it, from the Wall Street world is going to be what if it goes through, what would Choice end up paying, how much debt they would have to put on, how many shares they might have to issue, all those things.
Yeah, and that's literally the next question I wanted to ask is, so much of this deal is financed. And as you already alluded to, it seems like the initial response is, if a deal happens, it's not going to be at the price tag that's already been announced. So from your perspective, how much capacity do you think? Oh, go ahead.
I wouldn't completely rule that out. I think there's a probability, it's a non-zero probability that it could get done. It still might get done, but I think it would be certainly a higher probability if the offer was raised, by several more dollars.
Okay, then my question is, how many more dollars can Choice raise it, though, if with the cost of debt being so high right now anyway? Like, how much capacity do they really have?
It would also depend on, their other option certainly would be to issue shares, but that would, dilute the existing shareholders here. And, that's a risk. And, certainly the shareholders of Choice themselves would, have to approve it. Initially sounds like the major shareholders are in favor of it as it is, but if that offer changes, maybe they're less favorable. So, a lot to, if you're an investor or a management team, a lot to weigh out here. One thing helps the deal go through, your shareholders might not like. So it's, it's tricky.
Yeah. And I probably should have done the research before this call on this, but how much overlap is there in the big investor bases for those two companies? Like, I wonder how much that's playing into all of this. It's hard for me. I don't know exactly up to to quantify it, but I've certainly talked to investors over the last day who own both here. Yeah.
Certainly with Choice, you do have the founding family, the public information here, the Bynum family, large shareholders here, where you don't necessarily with Wyndham have the founding family in the.
So just to switch gears a little bit, because I want to ask you, there's been some talk and there's been some reporting that is kind of alluded to this being a hostile situation. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we've crossed a line into what you would traditionally consider hostile, especially since Choice is pretty open about the fact that they want to get Wyndham back to the negotiating table. I mean, how
Yeah.
far do you think we are from that point, and what do you think Choice's real prospects are of waging an actual proxy battle for this?
Well, this is again all my opinion, and I asked management this, and certainly they'll hold their cards close, probably at the advice of their corporate counsel. I wouldn't say at the moment that companies are necessarily on the friendliest of terms, and that's probably not a good thing. Eventually, they want to be working together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they would like it to be friendly, but the fact that you put these public letters out yesterday, that probably doesn't make it all warm and fuzzy at this point. And again, my view is, at the moment, Choice is with the letter they put out yesterday. They would hope that Wyndham would re-engage with them. Mm-hmm. My view is if that were not to occur, I would say probably likely Wyndham Choice would initiate a proxy battle, essentially take the proposal to the Wyndham shareholders directly and let them vote on it. Yeah. In which case we would probably use that term, hostile takeover. Mm-hmm. But we're not. I wouldn't call it hostile yet. But it's, again, I wouldn't call it warm and fuzzy either. So.
Yeah, it's more politicking at this point, right? Just winning over the hearts and minds.
That's a good way of saying it. Yeah.
So, my history with this stuff is obviously less significant than yours, but I feel like in previous reporting along these lines, and these situations don't crop up that often in the hotel industry, but when they do, I can't remember whether I heard it from you or someone else, that historically when situations like this crop up, and I'm thinking specifically of like Felcor and Ashford years ago in the REIT space, how the aggressor company, usually a deal will get done for the target company, but it's usually not the aggressor that ends up consummating that deal. I mean, do you think that somebody swoops in here and white knights for Wyndham, or do you think that these two companies are the only possible combination we get out of this?
Never say never. Mm-hmm. I would say these companies are probably far away the most likely. Yeah. It's not, again, I'm hesitant to speculate or create rumors. It's never impossible. You could see a private equity firm come in, or another hotel firm that also plays in the mid-scale space. But it would seem the most logical combination would be these two companies. Yeah. But never say never.
Mm-hmm. So if you were the chairman of Wyndham right now, what would win you over? Like, what's the last little bit that would push this past the finish line for you? Is it just like bump up the offer a couple dollars, or is it more significant than that?
Well, I think it would be a combination of a couple dollars or possibly more, and then some sort of breakage fee that would compensate Wyndham Hotels and essentially indirectly the shareholders if this should get rejected by the antitrust I believe, again, Department of Justice on that. What exactly that amount is, I don't know. I mean, I suspect probably hundreds of millions of dollars. But again, it wouldn't be insignificant.
Yeah. And I'm talking a lot of hypotheticals to you today, and I apologize for that, but it's kind of unavoidable with this. But I'm curious from your perspective, like, assuming a deal doesn't happen, I mean, do you see a way that these two companies walk away from this unscathed, or is there going to be some fallout, especially for Choice, you would think?
I mean, look, I don't know if it would be, permanently damaging. I have, and as I published in a research report this morning, when I spoke with Wyndham Hotels last night, they did have, some franchisees come to them and say they, for whatever reasons, perhaps because they're very, very happy with Wyndham, they don't want to be part of the Choice organization.
Mm-hmm.
And those franchisees would, given the opportunity when their franchise contracts end, would, leave the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably at the moment have some potential franchisees, more so probably on the Wyndham side, who are, at the moment thinking twice, given the uncertainty. So, I guess the question of what is that degree of being unscathed is probably not zero. I think probably the worst outcome would be if, they do agree to this and then it gets rejected by, rejected, and then everybody spent a lot of money, a lot of time, and nothing came of it. And, the competitors, such as Hilton Spark brand or, hypothetically having a field day here.
Yeah, for sure.
We're not dealing with this. You're going to be with us and join us, and
especially
Wyndham and/or Choice loses out.
Especially since there's so many other companies moving into this space right now, right? Like everybody's launching a mid-scale extended stay brand right now. It's not there's any shortage of opportunities to move away from either or both of these companies.
That's right. And absolutely. And that's why Wyndham absolutely has every right to be, concerned or hesitant and wants, some sort of guarantee or recourse if this moves ahead, yet then subsequently gets rejected due to antitrust issues. I think they're absolutely right to be concerned on that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and we're getting back to the AHOA thing too. I mean, you have the largest representative group of franchisees in the country right now saying that Choice is actively making an anti-franchisee, movement here. That's probably not the best look to have, but can understand the business rationale behind it.
Yeah, I mean, whether that's true or not, certainly Choice in their letters argue the otherwise. But then I haven't read the AHOA thing, but I could see, less competition gives, that's not always good for a competitive marketplace either.
Yeah, if this was more consumer facing, people would be saying it's anti-consumer, but that's probably not the real issue here. So just to loop this back around to
there could be aspect of that, but I wouldn't say that's at the moment probably lower on the list of concerns.
Mm-hmm, for sure. So to loop this back around to the beginning, and to try and put a bow on this, in the end, I mean, what do you think? What's your best guess on what happens with all of this? I know that's a big question. There's so many directions it could go.
Probably the greatest probability, again, absolutely no guarantees whatsoever here. I want to be very careful when I say that here. Disclaimers. I would say probably a couple dollars higher, offering an agreeable breakage fee, and then it gets done. But again, I'm hedging myself here.
Yeah, for sure.
I would say that's probably the greatest probability. But we'll see.
Do you think we're at the point, though, where ego's playing into this and that might be enough to kibosh a deal? You have, I don't want to necessarily use the term ego, but, you have executive management teams that, are very experienced and like what they do and want to look out for what's best for their companies and their shareholders. And, that's what their job is. So, whether that's ego or not, you also have for Wyndham an extremely experienced chairman of the board. M&A is M&A is in his DNA, and very, very savvy, and I'm sure sort of behind the scenes strategy goes into all of this for a chairman who is very experienced in such things. I would say, from what I can tell, I don't think anybody's on the record as being You're as high as anybody I've seen on the expertise and acumen of the Wyndham management team. So I'm assuming you're confident that whatever the right decision is, they will make it in the end.
I would believe so. I mean, it's I've known the folks on the board and management team for many years, and I'm absolutely confident. They'll do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
As should shareholders.
All right. This is your chance for a final word. Anything else you want to say about it?
Grab your popcorn and we'll watch here. So it'll check your emails for news releases and grab your popcorn.
I know it's definitely made my life more exciting this week. Well, Patrick,
thank you.
I genuinely appreciate you taking the time, and this has been a wonderful conversation. I'm really thankful.
Hi, I'm Isaac Colazo, Vice President of Analytics at STR.
Hi, and I'm Jan Freitag, National Director for Hospitality Analytics for the CoStar Group. Tune in to our new show, Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast.
It's a podcast on the global hotel industry, its current trends, what we're thinking about, and where the industry's going.
And we like to have fun with the data too. Find us on hotelnewsnow.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe today.